Hey gang, welcome to Dirty Chai TCG. My name's Ross, and today I'm here bringing you the breakdown of my Bonny deck I used to place second at the TAC Games Treasure Cup over the last weekend. Now I figured to keep it relatively comprehensive, I'll display each of my cards here, explain their usage, why I personally run them, things like that. After that, I'm going to go through my matchups of the day, and just touch on some key points that should help your decision making if you find yourself wanting to pick up Bonny, if you want to brush up if you're already a fan of the deck, or just want a second opinion. This is the same deck list I used to place 50th at the Oceania National Championship last month in Melbourne. So I saw some pretty decent success there as well, which is lovely, right? We love that. So without further ado, let's start down here with the 3 of, because the side of justice will be whichever side wins. The reason we run that is Bonny as a deck can brick. She runs a lot of no counter cards, a lot of high end. So this is a bit of a get out of jail free card. Its trigger is also quite nice. It's just rest of 4 or less, so it does come in handy when it comes off life. But yeah, its main use is to just get that 3k counter if we do have a bit of a dead hand. Next up, Baby 5. The reason we're running Baby 5 is it searches for the Don Quixote engine, right? So that's one of your key pieces up here, Dofi, one of your key pieces here, Rosie, and then a couple of 2ks throughout the deck. It's got a lot of use, so yeah, I definitely run 3 of. You can run 4 as well. I've seen some decks that run 4, not a bad choice. I run 4 of the Bonny Searcher for Supernova. The reason I run 4 over 3 is I prioritize the Supernova engine of this deck more than the Don Quixote, so I'd much rather see 4 of her than 4 of the Baby 5. That's for me personally. Like I really enjoy the 8-drop kid. I find that he has a lot of use in pretty much every matchup, stuff like that. Next up, 4 of the Baby 5 2k. So this has some very, very limited use. You can play it off kid if you need to restand Don on the end of a turn. It's very niche, probably won't happen too much, but I have done it once or twice. Next up, the Scratch Mana Poo. So he's a 2k, on play, rest a 2 or less. The reason I run 2 of these is in the Blackbeard matchup, you can actually play this quite early if they've played out a dock queue and they haven't pitched, you know, on their 3 Don turn or whatever it is, and you can just straight kill the dock queue early game. So it's got some limited use. Also against Nami, resting Boodle, which, yeah, I hate Boodle. Next up, we have the Scratch Mana Poo, the other 2k. This one is Don times 1 when attacking, rest one of your opponent's Don. The reason I run this is actually for the mirror. This has some very limited use in the mirror. It has popped up a couple of times and it has gotten me a couple of dubs. I do really like this card. Another deck it does okay into is the Poofy. Poofy with Gum Gum Giant, right? That just straight up rests a Don if you don't have the Hody Jones. So, very, very useful. Probably wouldn't play it all the time. That goes for most of the 2ks, but it does have use. Next up, Viola 2k. This one, I'm gonna be honest, you kind of never play. I don't really play this ever. I don't think I've played this once. It's more just a searchable 2k. It's the main idea of that. Then we have Carrot. So I run 3 Carrot. I know a couple of Bonnies like to run 4, which is fine as well. Very, very good use in Dofi, even Shanks, and Poofy. Very, very good use there. I think 3 for me just sort of works. I don't like seeing her all the time. I like seeing like maybe 1 or 2. So 3 is definitely a good number. The man of the hour, Cavendish. You are crazy if you're not running 4 of him. He is one of your best cards in this deck. The Don value just activates everything for you. He is crazy. You know, 8 Don turn, you can drop a kid, restand the 2 if you have him on board by attacking, and then you can still activate kid effect with a Don and have 1 up for leader. He is just unreal. I run 2 of these. Now, I know this isn't run in every Bonny deck. I think it has crazy value. In the Shanks matchup, in the Enel matchup, even in some black matchups, being able to stop a Moria turn, being able to stop 10-drop Ace in Enel, being able to stop 10-drop Shanks in Shanks. She has crazy value. even outside of that, being able to just straight up lock a character for a turn. Once again, 10 Shanks on the field, just make it sleepy. It's a really good card. Next up, Rosie. Once again, one of your key pieces. He is unreal. Drop him next to Kid. It is really hard to get rid of that Kid. I would say, yeah, once again, if you're not running 4, you're crazy. It is just so good. So much value. Use it to protect your other key pieces as well, like Cavendish. Stuff like that. Unlimited use with that guy. Now, I run 3 of the Killer Blocker. So this is the one that is Don times 1 on block. If you have 3 or more characters, draw a card. Now, I have gotten so much use out of this guy. I know a lot of Bonnies prefer the 1-drop Beige. Beige, however being 1 cost, is still a dead card. If you can't afford to get Beige out, it's just going to sit in your hand. This has the added bonus of being a 1k counter, as well as if you can get it next to a Kid in something like a Dofi matchup, where they are forced to double bounce your blockers, like you have a Rosie and a Killer out, 9 times out of 10 they're going to bounce Rosie back. If you have this on the field, it's just a free card. It is so useful. What else have we got here? We have Jones. So, Hody Jones, better known as Goaty Jones. He is unreal. Not a single matchup where he's bad. The resting a 2, even ripping a life sometimes, is huge. Being able to just get that extra card. Especially in matchups like Enel, when they try to just keep you at 5 life and put all your searches into life and everything. So useful. Into Blackbeard as well, if they do pitch, that is just a straight up 8k rush card. Don't have to rip life, none of that, because that's all on play. Just punch him in the face. Super useful. Of course, the man himself, Captain Kid. Now, goes without saying, this is one of your bread and butter tools. This is like Cavendish, this is like Rosie. He is one of the core pieces of your deck. He really puts Dofi in a bad position. If you get one of these out against Dofi, if they're running a Red Rock, then they can get rid of it. But if they don't run Red Rock, which a lot of deck lists don't, like, it is almost impossible for them to get rid of this thing. It is so sticky. Another crazy value card, Shanks. I cannot sing this card's praises enough. Into every matchup, maybe bar Blackbeard, this is just cracked. This is so good. Instantly KO anything they've played. Especially if they've screwed up turn order, if they've screwed up the sequencing of their turn, and they play something and then swing. Let's say they play a Moria and then swing. You can rest that Moria with your leader effect, and then bang, it's dead. It is just such a good card. Cannot stress enough, you want to run like at least 3 of these. 3 to 4. And of course, the man himself, Dofi. The reason I run 4 of these is in the black matchups. This forces black decks onto a timer. So if you can get multiple 10 Dofis in your hand, and you can chain drop 10 Dofis, what that does is you can be swinging directly at leader. You don't worry about their board. You swing directly at leader. Chain drop these 10 Dofis. They have to out them. They have to kill these 10 Dofis, because if they don't, another one's coming, and you just have that extra 10k swing. And then you do it again next turn, and then you do it again next turn. So it puts them on this timer of Bonny having almost a 4-turn lethal window. Cannot stress enough how good this card is. Even in matchups like Dofi, being able to just lock leader is huge. It's very, very good. BY Luffy, locking leader, locking the Moria, Sabos, whatever it is, huge. Very, very good card. So that's the overall deck list here. So moving on to matchups. The first matchup I had was a Do Flamingo, which funnily enough was a guy from my locals. I don't know the chances of that, but it was crazy. The main pieces against Dofi are your 8 Kids, your Rosies, and your Carrots. These also, Cavendish is just good in everything, right? This also helps at endgame, being able to lock the leader. The game plan against Dofi is you just don't hit him. You don't hit the leader directly early. You only swing at whatever the rested character is coming off life. I've had a couple of Dofis try to just keep their characters active. The thing is, when you're fighting Bonny, they're gonna get rested eventually anyway. The moment he swings once, one's getting rested. So you spend your time swinging at board, you never hit life. Until you get all of the cards out of hand you can. Meanwhile, you know, the turns are going, you're getting more Don, then you drop 8 Kid. If you have a Cavendish there, you can do it on 8 Don. 10 Don, you can drop it anyway. And that's when you sort of gain full control of the game. He's forced to swing up at an 8k body. If you can, try and get 2 blockers out, because they will bounce one with the 4-drop law, so one will come back. And then they'll have to do it again. Have one back. If they played it off leader effect, they're still using 7 Don. So they only have 3 Don. That's a 1k counter to get out of that. So if you can get 2 blockers out next to a kid, there is not much Dofi can do. This is generally just good. This will just lock 2 of his characters and his leader. Basically just shuts him down for the next turn. He'll have to Jinbei Weevil or something like that, if he even has it at that point in the game. Because you've just been starving him the whole time. And this is another supplementary card you can use to just lock annoying things like Jozu. He'll play a Jozu out, he'll bounce your Cavendish back. It happens. This is what you use to just keep it there forever. That Jozu's just going to stay there. Unless he's willing to bounce that Jozu back to hand with something like a Law or something and then use it again, it is not moving. It's going to stay there forever. So yeah, that's the way I like to play against OP-01 Blue Dofi. Moving on to Boa. These are your main cards in that matchup. The way you play it is very non-traditional because she is a removal deck and you are inherently weak to removal decks as Bonny. What you want to do is play extremely aggressive. So whenever you don't have a Cavendish or Carrot to play, you just want to swing with lead. Keep the pressure on, make them take life. You do that on the way up. So Cavendish, swing. It will get bounced back to hand or bottom decked. Then you play another one or you play a Carrot or whatever you have available. Keep going for leader. Board isn't a priority. When you hit your high-end turns, that's when you want to start playing much like a black matchup and spamming the 10 Dofis. Try and find as many 10 Dofis as you can. Lock their 10 Kaidos, their 7 Dofi, Jozu, whatever it is that they have on board. Keep going into lead. Keep going into lead. Keep the pressure on no matter what. You want the game to end as fast as possible. That is when you will drop your Hurdy Jones. Boa will always have, especially during like the lethal turns, she'll always have 2 blockers on field. She runs the 1-cost Law and the 3-drop Do Flamingo. That's when you want to drop your Hody, make sure they go sleepy, and then just punch in the face with Cavendish, Hody, and however many 10 Dofis you've managed to keep on the field that haven't been red rocked. So that's the main game plan into Boa. So next up was Enel. Enel, I actually don't like to play anything early at all. I'll swing at his leader and get him down to 1 life within the 4 turns that it normally takes, because they do take life quite often. The reason I do that is once Enel is at 1 life, they are in a way forced to heal due to having more of a lethal window because they don't have the 2 life and leader effect. So on the way up, Don lead, swing. Around your 7 to 8 Don turn is when I will drop a Cav. So I bring it out quite late. Same with my searches. I do not play searches or blockers early because they will get 4-cost Kuzan'd into life and you're just giving them an edge. So not worth it. Your 7 to 8 is when you drop a Cav. If they Katakuri this, they will still be at 1 life because you force them to 1 life. That's still fine for you. That can go into life. That's when, next turn, you want to do the same thing. Drop Cav or Carrot, whatever you have available, and then you can start using searches as well, because they're not going to 4-cost Kuzan you when they're on their 10 Don turn. They're going to have to be forced to heal because they're on that 1 life that you've set up. So doing that, keep that up as much as you possibly can. That's when you want to start dropping Kid with Rosie and the 9 Shanks to just straight KO whatever high end it is that they've swung with. Yamato, Katakuri, Ace, whatever it might be. They have no real outs for these cards besides Rygo. Rygo is their main blow up a giant body tool. Putting them on 1 life does allow them to use that without having to rip their life. But, like I said, if they're doing that, they're not healing that turn. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Next to Kid, always drop this in that matchup because, like I said, Rygo. Same with if you have a rested Shanks, rested anything important, make sure drop your Rosie to stop the Rygo. And keep them in that healing loop. Keep them at the 1 life. If they heal it back to 2, punch them again to 1, set your board up. Punch them again to 1, set your board up. That's the main plan into Enel. The next matchup was BY Luffy. The way that I like to play BY Luffy is stall as much as possible. Don't hit their life and force them to self-awaken, whether that's with Flampe or the 5-cost Luffy that trashes one of their life and lets them draw a card. If they do play that 5-cost Luffy, that's when you use Hody Jones on curve or on 8 and make sure it dies. If they do counter out of that, that's still really good for you. They're losing maybe 2 to 3 cards that turn in BY as well, which is really good for the later game when they don't have as much hand power, because they will slowly lose hand power due to having to pitch one for leader effect and stuff like that. And then, yeah, like I said, stall City, right? Don't have to hit them too much. Just clear their board on the way up. It will recur. That's what BY Luffy does. You're not too stressed about that because you are the leader that you are. You can just chill. Chill behind your 8-kid. Drop it alongside a Rosie. And if they play a Kuzan at any point, you prioritize killing that ASAP with Hody Jones or whatever means you possibly can. Lock it with Carrot, whatever you can do. Just make sure it can't operate, because one of the main combos is swing with Kuzan, lower Kid by 4, and then use a Rocket Luffy to pop it. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. That's why you'll always drop this alongside Kid as well. Keep him protected from that KO. And mid-range, mid-game is Cavendish like usual. You've got Carrot here as well. Very good use in that matchup. Like I said, with the 5 Luffy, keep him rested. Kuzan, keep him rested. Even Sabo, keep him rested. And this is one of your lovely little endgame options where you can just do the whole 10 Dofi loop, stun lead, stun Moria, stun a Sabo, and just keep it up. They will run out of gas eventually. That's what that deck does. And you really don't. Our next matchup, we're moving on to Blackbeard. So Blackbeard is an interesting one. They are a self-starve leader, in a sense. Due to their leader effect, you have to pitch that card to stop the on-plays from happening. Because of that, you can just do full stall City. Do the full Bonny thing. What you want to do, don't hit them at all. Don't give them the extra card on the way up. Stay healthy as well, because when Blackbeard does enter that Tendon turn, if they already have a Jesus Burgess on field and stuff like that, it's very hard to counter out of, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, that sort of thing. So stay healthy during the early game so you can just choose to take life late. And when you are at late game, you want to drop your Kid with a Rosie or a Killer. End game, they won't have a lot of outs to small blockers because you are starving their hand. So dropping a Rosie and a Killer, they normally don't go anywhere. They actually will stick. They will 10 drop Blackbeard and normally lock your Kid because Kid's a pain in the ass. And then they'll swing at lead because that's when Blackbeard enters their timer, their endgame timer, where they will have to keep pitching to stop you from KOing their Blackbeards. But also they have to play a Blackbeard from hand, so they're going -2 every turn during the endgame. So if you can stall that out and stay healthy, eventually they'll have no cards in hand. You can periodically pick off their board, whether it be Tenbeard or Burgess. And once you've done that, and you've sort of secured a nice place of, they've used 3 Tenbeards, the 3 Tenbeards are dead, I've got a nice full board here, I've got 2 blockers on field, and then you treat it kind of like Dofi, where you just swing methodically at lead, answer the things that they play, and whittle them down until you eventually win. That's the main game plan against Blackbeard. Moving on to Poofy. So Poofy, we have these as your main tools. Poofy is interesting. depending on how they play, if they are ripping their life a lot for leader effect, if they're going down to 2 life, you can switch up the game plan and actually start being very aggressive, forcing the Gum Gum Giants and counter out of their hand and leaving their board alive. As long as you have that 8 kit up, it'll be very hard for them to get around that, especially with a lot of their bodies being 6k bodies. It's a 2 Don investment on every swing. So they don't have a lot of offense if you have this out. The only other thing is if they are playing a little bit more conservative and not ripping their life as much, and they're hitting that end game and trying to drop the 9 mum and stuff like that, that's when you want to try and slow the game down. That's when you, like I said, set the kit up, get the Rosie out, try and get a Cavendish next to it, get a Carrot as well. Carrot, very, very useful in this matchup. Locks Luffy Taro, locks Sangoro, Zoroduro, all that sort of stuff. Very, very, very useful card in this matchup. Try and get one out if you can. And that's the kind of the whole game plan, is you sit behind Kid, pick the board apart very, very slowly, treat it like a Dofi matchup in a way, dwindle the hand down, and then go for lethal after. The last 2 matches in the tourney were a Dofi and a BY Luffy, which we've covered. So I just want to say thanks for sitting down and listening to me yap. I know I've been talking for a while, I'm sorry. Hopefully you've learned something. If you have any feedback, other opinions you want to share, just post them in the comments. I'll give them a read and we can have a chat. I just want to say thanks for watching, guys. I'll be uploading some gameplay from my local scene over the next few weeks, so if you're interested, come give it a watch. Other than that, I'll say goodbye for now and I'll catch you next time.